Okay, we're good to go, Carrie?
Just give me 1 second.
All right.
Okay, we are live now. Okay.
Welcome, everyone. We'll start off with our land acknowledgement statement. At the town of New Tecumseh, we acknowledge that. Oh, what's wrong?
Hang on 1 second.
Okay. Carrie?
Oh, there we go. We're good.
Okay. All right, let's round two. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Heritage Advisory Committee meeting on April the 11th, 2023. I'm going to begin with our land acknowledgement statement. At the town of New Tecumseh, we acknowledge that we are on the treaty lands and traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people, specifically the Ojibwe, Chippewa, Odawa, and Potawatomi peoples, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. This land is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. New Tecumseh is covered by the Lake Simcoe Nottawasaga Treaty number 18, signed on October 17, 1818, with the Chippewa Nation. We acknowledge that we are all treaty people and accept our responsibility to honor all our relations and move forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect. All right, good evening, everyone. We're going to begin with a confirmation of the agenda. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Andrea and Erica, thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Request to speak. We do not have any members of the public wishing to speak or to provide input, but in future, if anybody is interested, they can fill out a form and submit it in advance of the meeting. Summary report items. So we'll begin with summary review of summary report dated February 21st, 2023. Everyone have a chance to review this. Any questions or concerns or comments? No, not seeing any. All right. Sorry, Carrie, do you want a motion to receive that? Okay, so motion to receive the summary report. Vanessa, thank you. And Chris? Yes? Okay, great. Deputations and presentations. We do not have any deputations or presentations today. So item 3, correspondence and information items. We do not have any of those today. Item 4, unfinished business, Alliston Historical Society update. Okay, so I'm going to refer this over to Vanessa.
Yep, I'll do it. I'm gonna share my screen. I was gonna go take a photo of the spot, but decided to use Google instead. I've not screen shared with YouTube or Zoom before. Maybe I have. Am I sharing? Oh, I can't screen share. Carrie, am I able to screen share?
Let me just go in and see if I can change.
Okay.
You just have to make Vanessa the host or
Yeah.
co-host. Yeah.
Thank you.
Make co-host. Okay, do you want to try now?
Sure. Yep, we're good. Okay, so can you guys see that? Okay. Just like a thumbs up if you can see it. Okay, good, thanks, sorry. Okay, so this is the corner of, this is Nelson and Highway, or sorry, King Street North. And I guess I'll just answer the questions that you guys had from the first meeting. So the first question was, are the tie plates, rail spikes, and short tie listed in the letter from the original Hamilton and Northwestern Railway, or did they come from another railway? So they, all of that is original to the Grand Trunk Railway. And if you guys would like a little bit more information on that, I've got a write-up from Carolyn Knowles, local historian, and I'll be happy to send that to you guys. The next question is there a succession plan for these items in the event that the property is developed after Mr. McMullen has passed on? The answer is there is no succession plan, nor does Mr. McMullen have any wishes concerning these items following his passing. And then, is there a plan or a preference for where the remaining items, bench, platform, long rails, crossbars, Alliston sign, should go if the site is developed? And are any of these items related to the original railway site? So if this site is dismantled, the Alliston Historical Society recommends that the boulder with the plaque on it and the railway display both remain on site. The bench, the platform, the crossbars, and the Alliston sign are not original to the site. I wonder if I can zoom in. Yeah, that's better. So, okay, I'm going to come back to you guys now. Oh, I don't know how to stop sharing. Oh, stop share. Okay, there we go. Okay, so because I wasn't here at the first meeting, I just kind of read over the summary report, and these were the questions that you guys had asked, but is there anything else that's on your mind regarding this site? Or anything that needs to be clarified?
Put your hand up if you want to ask something. Erica, go ahead.
Sorry, Vanessa, just so I'm clear, just so I understand you properly, the pieces that are, so are the pieces of the actual railway original to the site, and it's just the other features around it that were added on later?
Yeah,
Like-
so the pieces of the railway and the boulder with the plaque is what they want to have.
No,
Same.
but sorry, that where the railway originally was, is that the actual original site of the railway, not where they want it, but is that where it was
Oh,
when train going
yeah.
through?
Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, if you want, I can later on, like tomorrow, I can find the map and send that to you guys so you can see the railway there.
Anybody have any other questions? No? Okay. Did you speak to them about moving them offsite? Because if the land is being developed into something, it might not be an option for it to stay in situ?
Katie, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, they have no problem with it moving off-site. They hope that it would remain on-site just for you know, the purposes of being on that original rail line. But we did talk to them about, say, moving the items to the museum if the owner of the property won't let them remain on that location, and they were fine with that. They, you know, said that it was really up to the committee. If the committee takes this on, that they could make the decision in the event that the property is developed.
Okay. Great. Yes, Vanessa, go ahead.
If I remember, I was just reviewing my notes, and obviously I didn't write it down. So if I remember correctly, I think we also discussed the question of maintenance of not necessarily just the railway, but the grass cutting and all of that stuff too. Was there any update on that?
Yeah, so the owner of the property takes care of all of that.
Everything.
So the Historical Society are not responsible for any sort of maintenance.
That's great.
So just for my clarification again, then, so if the owner of the property is taking care of all that, what are they specifically asking from us in terms of maintaining the property?
I think really they're just looking for someone to care about this site. You know, they have been kind of the caretakers and the keepers of knowledge for that site, and they're now that they're dissolving, they're just looking to pass that on to someone. It does sound like it's very hands-off, that it's just, you know, people to keep an eye on that site in case it changes hands or the developer does decide to build on it, you know, having somebody maybe just try to speak to the importance of the property if that day comes.
All right, so do you have a prepared motion or can I put a motion forward?
We do not have a
Nothing
prepared
prepared yet.
motion. Yeah.
Okay. So then the motion would be that the Heritage Advisory Committee be entrusted with the care of these historical items and have them remain in situ as long as possible. And if they need to be moved, that they be moved to the museum on the Boyne.
Katie, it's an outward question for you that everybody can hear, of course. Do we have Mr. McMullen's information, like contact information?
Yeah, we can get that easily.
Yeah, because I'm thinking like we should have all of that on file. Just in case we get any other questions further down the road.
Yeah,
Excellent.
yeah, no
Oh,
problem.
Josephine, you put your hand up. Go ahead. You're still muted. I guess she's on her phone. It's tricky. Oh. Josephine, we still can't hear you. All right. Why don't you try you can type up your question and send it in. All right. We go back to the agenda. All right, so that was, do you want to read back the motion for us, Carrie?
Certainly. So the Heritage Advisory Committee has been to be entrusted with the care of the historical items. And if they needed to be moved, they will be moved to the museum on the Boyne. Is there anything else in there?
I think that captures it. Anybody
Okay.
have any additions? No, all right, not seeing any. All those in favor? Oh, sorry, I had to have a mover and a seconder. So mover, I'm gonna get Andrea, seconder Josephine. All right, and then we had all in favor. All right, thank you. Oh, Vanessa, we have another voter over there. You only get one vote. Okay, so next item on the agenda is the Richhill United Church Cemetery update. So again, I'll move this over to staff.
Sure, so I can take that one. The update is very brief. It did go to council and council decided not to move forward with the acquisition of the cemetery plot. So that is the update, and we will remove that from the agenda now.
So do you know what happens now, Katie?
I do not know. Now that council has decided not to, that is the kind of the end of it as it relates to us.
Okay. All right. Anyone have any
super brief.
questions? Yeah, go ahead, Andrea.
I'll, there was quite a few components to the conversation, the discussion, and it was in camera, so I won't go through everything now. But what I will say is that I do believe that council did make recommendation. So it's not just the end, but I'll find out, Shira, the appropriate way to follow up with this committee to, you know, I'll find out what's going to happen next and update everyone with the appropriate level of transparency.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm completely ignorant about the details of that discussion because I had to recuse myself.
Yeah.
Because we're members of the Tonham United. All right, so moving on to St. John's United Church designation updates. All right, back to you, Vanessa.
Okay. So quick update on this. I went and did a site visit last week. I think it was on Tuesday. And I spoke with a couple of gentlemen, saw a bunch of items from the archives, took some photographs. And as of last week, the notice of intent to designate has been issued to the property owner and the Ontario Heritage Trust. And I don't know if it's already been sent to the newspaper, but we've got to send it to the newspaper as well. So the wheels are moving on the designation. The general public has 30 days from the date of the issue of the NOID to come out and say no or you know, object to it. And then after that, I have to get the report in to council basically, and make a motion to get the bylaw created for the designation. So from issuing of the NOID, there's a 30-day period. And then after that, you have up to 90 days to get everything else sorted. If that 90 days is passed over, then we have to start back at square one. So we are on the way to designation. I want to share my screen again and show you guys the report. It's not done. That's why I haven't emailed it to you guys yet, because keep uncovering new things. I have to stop eventually though. So we do an introduction, we do a property description. The way that we research properties is we access the property's legal description. And what this does is it allows us to go into the historical books and look up as far back as we can the property that the building was situated on. And then through that, you kind of go down in time to where the property gets severed. This one isn't so bad because there's a lot of research that's been done already for the church. And the Fletcher family, you know, the people that are responsible for Alliston becoming a town, have a big role to play in the creation of this church. So I'll just kind of scroll down to show you what goes into it. So on that first page is the introduction about what this property is. And then we've got the property description. So you've got the municipal address there, the legal description, etc., the architectural style. On the right-hand side is the 1904 Alliston fire insurance map. And I use that to have visual representation of the church. So the arrow is pointing to where the church is. And then below, I've got a 2022 aerial view of the church as well. Then we go into some historical background of the area pre-contact to contact, then to, you know, the start of the actual property that we're researching. And the information below, the relevant property history, is essentially the property where the big movements were happening for the church. So the initial patent came in 1833 for this property and 1850. So part of Alliston used to be in Essa Township. So where the church is used to be Essa Township, north of Victoria. And then you see later on, it becomes Alliston. In 1879, it's now 1 acre olive lot from Alliston. John Fletcher had purchased parts of this land from William, and they broke it up. Then we've just got, your heritage evaluation, any alterations and repairs. I tried to get photographs of alterations and repairs as best as I could. We've got the history of the church. That yellow highlight is from a previous designation. I'm using it as kind of idea referencing. And then scroll down, and then these are some site pictures. I still need to add in descriptors to the site pictures. And then I'm going to do a genealogy. So I like to name the genealogy history of all the pertinent people that were involved with the building of the site. And then we come down to anything from the collection or items from other collections that we're able to uncover. So we've got some photographs, and then the items that I gathered from the archives at the church. And I will gladly email you guys this when it's done. This one, the picture on the right with the picture of the bricks, I like this one. It's not part of the church, but there was a manse to the right of the church when you're looking at it. And when it was torn down, the former Reverend Shelton, his wife, was able to save this brick. So the middle brick says FB. And I think down below it said 1911 or 1904. FB stands for Frederick Banting. Sir Frederick Banting, who was born here in Alliston. He was very much a part of the Wesleyan Methodist Church. And we've got some photos of him and other Banting family members at the church. Actually, he might be in the one that we passed. So this is just to give you guys a general idea. This gets attached to the bylaw, and it goes into the Ontario Heritage Trust gets this copy. It becomes public knowledge. It's held at the museum, and it just serves as a research tool for the property as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Vanessa.
No problem.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay. Any comments? Okay, Erica. Go
I
ahead.
just want to be very impressed with the level of research and detail, Vanessa. I think that's fantastically done. And I think that people should appreciate the level of research that you do. And not everybody has lucky enough to have a municipality with that kind of researcher on board. So well done.
Thank you, Erica. That's very nice of you.
Andrea, go ahead.
I was just going to echo that sentiment. Erica nicely said, really impressive. And it's great to learn about the process and the steps involved as I'm just getting up to speed with property designation. So I'd love to be able to reach out for some more guidance around that. And also, in addition to the bricks, the Sir Frederick Banting initialized bricks, the key, having the original key is so special as well. So that's an amazing archive. Thank you.
Yeah, they had a very cool archive, that's for sure. And when you separate, like I separate religion from it, and I look at the architecture and just the history, it's got such a rich, well taken care of history. So it's a great property. I recommend anybody to go and visit it. If anybody comes to the museum, it's right around the corner. So I'd be happy to show you how we do the property research at the museum and go see the church. I think that's it for that update. And I'll, of course, keep you guys updated on the designation process as it goes along via email, just to keep you up to speed with where we're at. Otherwise, we're just waiting for time to pass now.
And you don't see any issue with getting it in within the 90 days, do you?
No.
Okay.
The report's probably like 95% done.
Excellent.
So we have to, once the 30 days passes, then we can submit the report to council.
Yeah.
And then it's up to council to keep it within the 90 days.
Okay, all right, we'll keep them on track, right, Andrea?
I'll have like a timeline of the dates that it needs to be done by, so you can have that highlighted and marked.
While we're on the subject of designation, this might fall under new business. But yeah, I'll bring it up under new business. All right, so new business. Let's go to item 1 first, demolition permits. So I don't know, is this Katie?
No, it'll be me.
That's you, okay.
Okay, so demolition permits, we thought to bring it up to this meeting because I think it was last week or within the last 2 weeks, the committee received an email about a demolition. Yeah, it was a demolition. And not everybody on this committee would probably know that at the last committee, we asked for all demolition and alteration permits for any building in New Tecumseth, regardless of whether it's designated or not, to come through the Heritage Committee, to give the committee a chance to say, wait a second, or all good kind of thing. The changes to the Ontario Heritage Act and Bill 23 have kind of, I don't know how to be nice about it, but they've kind of cut a lot of the red tape to get through. So there's a lot to unpack with Bill 23 and what it means for demolitions and designation process. So I don't know if anybody has questions regarding the demolition or alteration permits, and then we can move on from that part of the question.
And again, just to bring everybody who's new up to speed, so sometimes we will get a property that comes through that looks like it's a heritage building. And so, you know, there'll be questions from the committee about, you know, have we been out? Do we have documentation about that spot? Do we have photos of that spot? Just because once it's gone, we won't have that opportunity again. So, and then also it is, I don't know if this has changed because of Bill 23, but before something is demolished, there is the opportunity for council to, I don't know, do something, purchase it if they really, really, really wanted to. But yeah, it's just an opportunity for the public, which is you guys, to see what's going on and speak up.
Yeah, and just to echo that, whenever there is a confirmed demolition, because sometimes it's just demolitions of like a shed on the back of the property that, you know, it's fine. But if there is a building, like there was a house on Main Street in Beaton, I went and photographed the whole thing before it was demolished. So we do get the opportunity to go and photograph at the very least, because unfortunately we can't save every building, as I've had to accept.
You're a mute, Shira.
Yeah, go ahead.
This makes so much sense because I couldn't figure out why I got the demo application or report about I think it's just a cart shed that they want to demo and rebuild on Woodington Lake.
Yeah.
And I was like, I feel like this is coming to me for a reason and I don't know why.
Yeah, that's
So this
exactly
makes
the
sense
email.
now. Okay.
Perfect. So yeah, they're just looking at you as the Heritage Committee to assess the application and whether or not you want to do research or you want staff to go ahead and do some research on the item or the building or the property. But yeah, like that one was pretty easy to tell that it was fine.
Right.
All right, if there's no further questions, I'm going to go back to, so super annoying. All right. Okay, so now we're back to new business. And I just wanted to hear from you guys, from staff. We had talked about last time, you'd updated us about the changes with Heritage, and that any house that is listed as significant, that there's a certain time period in which it then has to either be flipped into going through the designation process or dropped. And I just wanted to ask, is that something was there a letter sent to everybody to notify them about that, or do you need a motion to do that sort of thing?
It's on our list to see if you want to have us send a letter out to everybody. So every single building that is on the register of significant properties, as of January 1st, 2023, the clock has started. There is 2 years, only 2 years to either have these buildings designated, or they have to come off the list and they cannot be considered or added back to the significant register for 5 years. So
that's huge.
It's pretty significant and scary because you can only really get 1 or 2 designations done a year.
Yeah.
And we've got a listserv with Heritage Network in Ontario, and there's a few ideas going around about how to tackle this. But yeah, I think it's a group discussion for the committee to think about how they want to go about doing this. So the first idea was the letter. So we could send a letter to every property owner of the significant list and say what's going on, give a little bit of background about Bill 23 and what the changes are and how this is going to affect things, because the significant list, a lot of the properties on there agreed to being on the list because they were unsure of designation, but this at least gave them a little bit of recognition and protection. So yeah, maybe we can come up with a letter that's, tugs at the heartstrings a bit.
Go ahead, Vanessa.
Was there, I think we also possibly mentioned the success that came from the open house that we did last year and the couple designations we got from that, or interest in general. If you're sending out a letter, is it a possibility maybe to have another one, like a kind of an info night, specifically just saying, if you're on the significant list and you want to designate, or it's something you're thinking about, come get more information and we can possibly, I know it's a lot to organize, but if it's crunch time, just to get somebody to actually come in person might expedite the process of their decision.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. We had a full house with that first open house. And St. John's United Church is one of the designations that came out of that. We just had to wait for the new term to start before we could get the ball rolling. But yeah, so I think that's something that we can wrap our heads around for whether Katie and I can, because now we're approaching, I know it's April, but we're approaching
a year and a half.
The year and a half, and we're also approaching summer, which is busy time for the museum, and it's also busy time for people on vacation, because the last open house we held, I think it was August 16th or something like that. So it was near the end of the summer. So if we're going to do that, I think it needs to happen before summer or after summer. Now, I'm pretty sure I've wrapped my head around this. Katie and I were talking about it the other day. I'm not entirely 100% sure, but from what I'm gathering, properties to become designated need to be on the significant list first. So I'm not certain. I'm going to have to talk to somebody at the Ontario Heritage Trust or at the province, because the wording that I'm reading is stating that the property needs to come from a non-designated list. So if one of you or somebody from the public were to bring forward a new building, my understanding is that we would have to add it to the significant list and then visit that list and say, okay, we want to designate this building. We have 2 years from the day that it gets put onto the significant list.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know how in-depth you want to go about Bill 23, but
Yeah, it doesn't sound like cutting red tape, just saying. Okay, Josephine, go ahead.
There we go. So I had a question and I was wondering, is there any sort of advantage or incentive that the city may be able to provide to people who are on the significant list for them to become designated if their property has particular heritage value to the city? Is that something that that New Tecumseth could consider?
yeah, I believe right now the only incentive, correct me if I'm wrong, Katie, is the community improvement program. I think it's what it's called, CIP grant. And it's a certain amount of money that the town will cover half, I think, of the cost up to a certain amount. And that's for repairs or alterations or maybe maintenance. And I think that's the only incentive currently being offered. There are other grants through the government that you could try to look up as well. Off the top of my head, what they're called, I can't recall, but they exist.
And if I remember correctly, we can't just go and give a tax break for designated properties. I know that's something that they do in the States. But I think that's why we went the way of the grants. If I remember correctly, could be wrong. That's what I'm recalling.
Mhm. It was so long ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago. Does anybody have their house on the significant list? Here, Chris, I'd be interested to hear from you, if you wouldn't mind speaking up right now, about just from your experience, like going from like not being anything to going to significant, and what your perspective might be on moving towards designation. Like, what do you think as a homeowner would be somebody's concerns or fears? I mean, we all have an idea of what we think are the concerns and fears because we hear them, but you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, so we just recently moved to Tottenham and purchased ourselves a beautiful 1895-ish home that Vanessa has actually been doing a whole lot of research for us on. It's been wonderful. And I'm trying to get my partner to want to put the house on designation, but the fear and concern on their part really comes from insurance. We have a whole lot of fear mongering with our insurance companies that are telling us it significantly is going to change our insurance policy on our home and what they will and will not cover. So that's probably the biggest one, to be honest. And I know that in conversation with Vanessa, that's kind of a general consensus of people who are not wanting to do that with their home. Along with all the other things of potentially not being able to change certain things on the house if they decide they want to change. So again, I know that it changes from municipality to municipality what they will and will not allow to happen to properties. So
That's great. Thank you so much. I think that's really interesting because it really highlights, I think, some of the things that we had thought of, but I don't remember the conversation ever going back to the insurance because I haven't heard that one before. It's like that seems a new one for me as somebody who has a designated house. It's never come up with our insurance company, but I don't know, like, did you just call them and ask them and they're like, oh, like that's what I guess I want to, like, how did that conversation, and maybe this is an offline conversation we can have, but I'm just curious to see, is that a concern that a lot of people are going to encounter, or that we're going to encounter a lot. And maybe Vanessa or Erica, you guys might have experience from your own experience with heritage, but go ahead, Chris. Were you going to say
Sorry.
something?
Oh, yeah, I forgot what it was. I apologize. If I remember, I'll jump back in again. Oh, I do remember. Also incorporating with that is the aspect of resale value. There's a perception also that having a designated home, again, comes with all those restrictions that people think, and it's going to somehow depreciate the cost of your home, which I don't believe. However, some people do, including them. So
Yeah.
you have those challenges and misperceptions of past knowledge and history of what they may or may not have gone through in other municipalities again.
For sure. That one I've heard before. Yeah, that one we're used to. Okay, well, that's good for us if we are going to be doing some education pieces. Those are some, that could be added if it's not already addressed in our frequently asked questions for heritage designation, to throw that stuff on there. Yeah, and I just want to highlight again that the restrictions are less about being from municipality to municipality, and they are absolutely house to house, because each house has its own bylaw and its own special features that are protected. For example, my house has very few features that are architecturally interesting. So there's not a lot that's protected that way. It's more the person who lived in the house. However, some houses have special windows or very nice brick detail and that sort of thing. And usually that's done in consultation with the homeowner, and it's usually things that they're already house proud about. They already recognize this is what makes my house really special, and I wouldn't want to get rid of that brickwork anyway, so it doesn't become a big issue. All right, I'm going to step off my podium and see if there's anyone else. Okay, Vanessa, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a quick question about the resale value thing that Chris brought up. I don't know if anybody has, just out of curiosity, and then it might be something that we can use to be like, actually, we've done the research. If anybody has like a friend who's a realtor or anything like that, who could just pull stats of like, what this house sold for versus what your next door neighbor sold for, or like somebody beside you or in your area who's also designated. I know it's hard because it all has to kind of be in the same time frame, in the last 2 years has been all over the map. But even if we look pre-COVID, if there's been designated houses listed and sold, what comparables might be to neighbors in the same subdivision, just to either prove or disprove that point. Just out of my own personal curiosity, but if it comes back that there really is no impact, and it's something we can confidently tell people.
Go ahead, Vanessa. Yeah.
Well, it's a good question. We had op-eds done for the Beaton Heritage Conservation District because this was a big concern. Now, we can probably put together a comparative matrix or graph or something, but in Collingwood, for example, in Kleinburg, Cookstown, all these towns that have the heritage conservation districts, it's the exact same thing as a singular designation for a building. All of the properties within the Collingwood HCD did not see any change, any decrease in value, rather, to their properties. If anything, there's more of a want and an interest, because generally, people buying these properties are specifically interested in the heritage and the history of the house or the building. So they have a want to keep some kind of the integrity of the building intact. So I would encourage people to go and read those op-eds. I could send them over as well from the heritage conservation districts. But I haven't come across any information to say that property decrease value has happened. Now, the insurance is 100% an issue, because insurance, from what we've been, again, talking about the Heritage District and other designations, what we've seen with designations and insurance is this: it goes up and it goes down. And in talking to our or not our heritage, but our senior planner as well at the town, I don't know what the insurance game is, and it seems to be a all across Ontario, if not national, issue.
Just to add to that, I'm not even certain it's just because it's designated. I think it just comes down to the age of the house, because my neighbor has 100+ year house, not designated, not significant, anything like that. There's been extensive changes and modifications, but one of the major things she always tells me about is how difficult it has been for her to find insurance without a designation or any kind of heritage connection at all, just because of the age of her house. So, I think that's also a factor. It's not just because it's designated. I don't know, depending on the conversations Chris has had with his company, maybe he can explain more, but I'm kind of curious if it's just an age thing as opposed to a heritage thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm not an insurance expert, but it sounds like a way to get around charging people more.
Yeah, I would agree. In our conversations that we have had, we do our research with insurance companies. It did come down to the age of the house, of course. That's going to be problematic for certain insurance companies. They want to know, has the plumbing been upgraded to the plastic piping? Has the wiring been redone? Is the electrical done? Fuse panels, all that stuff. But they specifically have asked us if it's a designated heritage home.
They specifically asked you.
Specifically has been asked.
Interesting. Yeah, so I don't know if it's worth trying to get. This is just me thinking, but if there's opportunity to talk to different insurance companies, not through staff, but I don't know how it would be done, but I want to get like an understanding from different insurance companies throughout the general area and see what they're all saying and why.
Very interesting. Thank you. Yeah, I'm curious about that too. I know when we had our house, just moved into it trying to get insurance, it was the fact that we had a wood stove that was problematic. But the local one that's in Alliston was like, yeah, no problem. Like it was not a big deal. So some bigger companies coming out of downtown, they were like, whoa, we can't do that. We can't do anything with the wood stove. But one that's used to rural properties was like, it didn't faze them at all. So seems like there's a lot of variation from place to place. Anywho, interesting conversation. Thank you, Chris, for that update on what's being talked about in the insurance world. What new obstacles they're putting forward.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so are there any items that anybody would like to see put onto next meeting's agenda? Andrea, go ahead.
Thank you. I wanted to, a resident asked if the Muddy Water Tavern in Beaton was historically significant building. Has it been designated? And the Tottenham Water Tower.
The Muddy Water is going to be part of the Heritage Conservation District, and it is currently on the significant list.
Okay. Is the Tottenham Water Tower?
No.
Okay. So I would like to explore adding the Tottenham Water Tower to the municipally significant list. And then also in February, the town of New Tecumseth signified the month of February as Black History Month. And there was an event held at the rec center in Tottenham that was a cultural event. A resident named Janet Othman, she organized it and brought together musicians. There was a Juno award-winning singer there, food and entertainment, and it was open to the entire community, but it was around bringing awareness to Black History Month, and then specifically, that there is cultural significance of Black Canadians who have, been part of the mosaic and fabric of New Tecumseth. So her intention is to expand on this event. This past February was the first annual. And she reached out to me and a couple others on council and asked if we were able to help, create awareness and leverage the visibility on this. So it got me thinking, I would like to, start to do a little bit more, and I'm sure the research is done, but become more educated personally on the cultural diversity that's been part of the historic, the history of New Tecumseth, and then work in my capacity as counselor to help Janet, elevate this event and create more awareness, and also cascade it so that it's more inclusive to all three communities within the town. So why am I rambling on about this for next month's agenda? I think because I just wanted to express to the committee that I have the appetite to focus on some of the cultural aspects of our town's history and support some of the individuals that are wanting to tell the story that is maybe not been told yet in a elevated way. It made me start to think about, is there a further opportunity to amplify in a very similar way our Indigenous and the story of our Native Canadian heritage within the town through cultural events specifically. So nothing to do with building designation. And I just wanted to know if that is something that anybody else has interest in. Does anyone have any issue with me pursuing and perhaps bringing updates to the committee, and just asking for your insight or experience that you may already have in this?
I can respond to that. Yes. So Katie and I are the culture department. It's just the two of us in the whole town. To answer that, yes, we 100% would love to work with the community. Like that is our goal. It's like the topic of our conversation most days of the week. If you haven't already seen it, we do have a 30+ page Indigenous history in New Tecumseth document on our website. And we at the museum, we've been making changes, within our gift shop and our literature. We've got books about Black history and different races and Indigenous history, and we're in contact with some groups. So if you want to, what was her name? Janet? Sorry?
Janet. Yeah. Janet Othman.
Yeah. So if you want to put her in touch with Katie, maybe, and you guys start a conversation, I highly recommend roping Katie, and then I'll get roped into that, because one of our goals is to expand the BIPOC community in New Tecumseth, because for decades and decades, the only story that's been told is the white man's history. So from the museum perspective, our collection is also wanting to grow in a more diverse way as well. So we've been talking a lot about our focus being outreach and what does the Heritage Committee want to see as their focus? So what events in town are happening that maybe we can have a presence at? So yeah, if you're aware of anybody in the community, because we can only do so much with the knowledge that we have. So 100%, if you ever come across something like that, please put them in touch and we can all work together.
Thank you.
Because the museum is a great space as well to have cultural events there. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about what's coming, Katie, so you go ahead and talk about that. Okay, so there's things happening. In June, we do have a Cree language exhibit coming to the museum for Indigenous Peoples Month, and it's coming to us from the Language Museum in Toronto. So we need help. We need a lot of help. We need help with outreach. We need help with marketing. It's so difficult for us to get the word out there for various reasons. So any ideas like this, we completely welcome. And it'll need to be a group effort.
Okay. Thank you. I just to add to it, that's so wonderful to hear, and I hope that me being excited about supporting the cultural endeavors that the town already exists in no way came across like I was taking away from what you guys have already done. So thank you. But I'm excited and I would like to support, and I do have some ideas, and I just was thinking that this group might be this committee is definitely somewhere I'd like to bring updates and ideas and initiatives to, and then obviously in addition connecting with you and Katie directly offline as well, if everyone's okay with that. And I'd like to add the Tanya Water Tower to the municipally significant list.
Erica, go ahead.
Sorry, I had to unmute. Thanks, Andrea, for sharing that with us. I did not know. I try and find out what's going on in the community, and I totally missed that event, and it's definitely something I would have wanted to attend. I study a lot of Black history, both personally and professionally, so I think it's something that's really important. So I would like to see those kind of events shared to help where I can. Small plug, if the museum had their own social media, that would help. Putting that out there. And I think that, I think we're all heritage minded and want to help whatever way we can. Try not to speak for everyone, but for me. So knowing about those events is something I'd like to, this is a great resource for finding out, because I totally missed that and would have definitely wanted to help and be there and support in any way I could. And I spend a lot of time reading about Black history, and just a reminder that, we can celebrate it in February, absolutely, but Black history is history, and we can talk about it and celebrate it and research it all year round. So we don't have to wait a year to dive in.
All right, thank you. Josephine, go ahead.
Yes, I'd also like to add my voice to that, to say that I would love to hear more about the events that are going on, if there are events like that. And I agree that if the museum have a social media platform, that would be very helpful. That's something that I could follow and stay in tune with. I also would like to volunteer to help if there's anything like that going on. I have given lots of presentations and speeches to schools about Indigenous education, and I'm involved in a lot of initiatives, and as well, I'm part of a group writing an open letter currently to the King Charles III to ask him to rescind the doctrine of discovery in Terra Nullius. And so if there's anything, it perked my ear up when you were talking about the church earlier, I wonder if there is any further history about that. Because that's something that I've been researching considerably. So if there's anything like that going on, please involve. I would love to hear more about that. I think that's definitely something that the Heritage Committee can do. Thank you.
Now, I'm just, what I'm questioning is what are our like the Municipal Heritage Committee's parameters around what they can and cannot do? Do we, like, the terms of reference? Like, I know a lot of it's built heritage, sorry. But upon researching other municipal heritage committees, a lot of them are very active in the cultural activities of the town. So, and Katie, jump in. I don't know where the line is drawn between museum and heritage, or if they combine, or.
Yeah, so right now, the way the terms of reference are, the cultural events would go more towards the museum, and Heritage Committee is more specifically to deal with built heritage. But that's not to say that it has to stay that way, because you're a group of heritage-minded individuals and it's not just buildings that you're interested in. So, whether we look at the terms of reference and revisit that, Carrie, maybe that's something we could look at for our next meeting, is the current terms of reference, and see if maybe we do need a bigger cultural component. Because as Vanessa has mentioned, it's just the two of us trying to do museum and heritage and culture. So, the more support that we get from committees, that helps us be able to get more support behind our initiatives and what the community wants. So yeah, we could definitely talk about that at the next meeting.
I'll add it to the list.
All right, so we have a couple items added to the next agenda to review. Anybody else? Katie.
I just wanted to bring it back to the conversation about the significant property list. Is it the wish of the committee for us to move forward, send a letter out to the significant property owners that are currently on the list and invite them to, say, an open house in June? That would probably give us enough time to get a letter out and give people, a few weeks time to prepare for, perhaps end of June open house before the summer, as Vanessa suggested.
I think that's an excellent idea. Do you have somebody who would move that? Andrea? All right, and Vanessa second, that we send out a letter and have an open house in June. All those in favor? Awesome, that's passed. Thanks, Katie. All right, so if something comes up between now and then you want to have that added to the agenda, just reach out, send an email over to Katie or Vanessa, and we'll see what we could do, or I should say to Carrie. Otherwise,
I have just one more thing, sorry.
Yeah.
We kind of want to just get an idea of who might be interested in volunteering like an hour or two of their time to some events within the town. Me and Katie can send an email with what events we're thinking of, but it's just to have a Heritage Committee representation there. And to like relieve us to go to the bathroom and stuff, but yeah, we want to get out into the community more. So even if it's like an hour, 2 hours, half day, whatever anybody's willing to, we can send an email with the events that we are currently aware of and committed to, and see if anybody wants to maybe attend. Like, don't feel obligated, but we will definitely appreciate and accept the help. That's all.
Yep. Send away that email and everyone will sign up on punishment of, I don't know, death. Not really, but of long meetings next time. All right. And if there's nothing else, I'm going to adjourn this meeting at 8:05. Get a mover. And Andrea, thank you. All those in favor? And we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.